going to talk about how my friendship ended with Unity and now Godot is my best friend. So who am I? I'm Daniel Nascimento, one of the Daniels. I started my career as a 3D artist animator. I graduated from Vancouver Film School in 2012. I started messing around with making games by modding using a new development kit, which at the time was Unreal 3. It was around 2013. And I started using Unity in 2014, and it was version 4.6, so a long time ago, about 10 years ago now. I started my own company, BBCode Games, as a full-time developer in 2016. And back then, I never really thought that I would change engines until last September, which everybody here knows what happened last September, but yeah, this is what happened. I was already paying quite a bit for Unity because once you get past a certain revenue threshold, you have to pay like either Unity Plus or Pro. I was a Pro at the time, which was about $400 a month. I included some other things. There might have been like some extras there, like a support directly from Unity and stuff, but I was already giving them a bunch of money, and they decided to all of a sudden change their terms of service. With very confusing language as well, because they were like, yeah, we're gonna charge for runtime installs. Okay, what is an install? Like, someone just like keeps downloading my game and like glitching and downloading a game. Am I paying for each time they do that? Like, what the hell is that? It was very shady too. It was like, oh, if it is like that, if you just install and now you know that that's an install, how do they know that? What are they tracking from my users and from me? That's kind of weird because we have no idea. It's a black box inside. Who knows what kind of information we're collecting? And the weirdest part, and the one that was like the worst for me, is that they wanted to do that retroactively. So like we're changing the terms of our deal, and that's valid for everything you've done before. So if you made a game like 5 years ago with Unity and you released it out there, and if it was over the thresholds or whatever, we're gonna charge you for installs. But like, that shouldn't be possible. I don't think that's possible. I don't think they should talk to your lawyers about that. But yeah, the biggest thing was like a big break of trust. How can you make have a business partner that essentially at any time can be like, yeah, I want more money. Well, I know we had a deal before, but I'm changing the deal. Like, what's going to prevent them from changing the deal again in the future? Like, I couldn't really go back from that, especially because this is my livelihood. I live off the games that I make, so I can't just have that hanging over my head. One thing that taught me is that if I don't own my engine and the things in my game, then I can't be sure that I own my game. Because with Unity, if they decide like, oh, you are using the Unity runtime in your thing, we're banning you from Unity runtime or whatever, take your game off the stores. It's like, that's not okay. So yeah, I went into Godot, which is a free game engine. It's very tiny but capable. It's completely open source under the MIT license. There's no fees, no revenue share, no nothing. You just download it and it's yours. You have full access to the source code, so you can do whatever you want with it. You can like go in there, like find how things work, change it up. The license is so permissive that I can sell you like my own, like, oh, I can call it Daniel Engine and just sell it as my own. And the license allows me to do that. By the way, if anyone is interested in Daniel Engine, I'm gonna talk to me after the show. So Unity. And I feel almost like it's a Stockholm Syndrome kind of thing. I used to love Unity. Like, oh, Unity is awesome, because I was comparing Unity to Unreal Engine 3. That's where I started. When I was using Unreal Engine 3, to change something in my code, I had to close the engine and recompile. Like, there was no just like, I changed that and like, oh, now I can press play. Like, no. If you change something and there's an error, you can't even open the engine. You have to fix the error to be able to compile and open the engine again. That's ridiculous. So when I got to Unity back in 2014, I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, I can just change my code and I don't need to close the engine anymore. That's awesome. One of the things that annoys me the most now, looking back to Unity, is garbage collector. That's not even a Unity thing, that's a C# thing. But in Unity, it causes a lot of problems with performance, because whenever the garbage collector runs, it causes you a lag spike. So if you are generating a lot of garbage, if you're not being careful with how you code things, you end up having the garbage collector running very frequently. And that causes lag spikes, and the players will be mad at you, and they will give you bad reviews. So a lot of the time when I'm coding C#, I'm thinking of allocations, like, oh, I shouldn't just use a string here, because string is going to generate garbage. It's going to add to my garbage collector run. oh, I should cache the string, I should cache this, I should cache that. Like, there's so much that when I'm coding in Unity, I'm just trying to avoid performance issues, which is not a thing that I have to do with anymore. In Unity, you have game objects with components. That's essentially the paradigm of Unity. Like, you have the game objects can have multiple components. Game objects have an overhead with them, so whenever you're instantiating a game object, destroying a game object, if you're doing a lot of them at the same frame, you're also going to get a lag spike, which is annoying. It's slow and bloated. I never noticed how slow it was. Like in Unity, you can't just use Unity for too long without running into a loading bar. Or I changed something in my code, loading bar. Or I want to play test, loading bar. Or I want to stop playtesting, loading bar. It's very lacking by default. Like when you just download the default Unity, it's so bare bones. It's missing so much stuff like twins. Even if you want to do like proper UI text, it's like, hey, install the Text Mesh Pro. I was like, can't you just have that there? And most things, you need to go and pay an asset store for it. It's like, oh, we have this input system. Like, it sucks, but in the asset store, you can get that rewired for $45. Like, a lot of stuff is like that. Whenever I started a new project back in the day, I'll just copy over like 7 or 8 assets into it just to get started. It's made by corporate for the shareholder pockets. Meanwhile, in Godot, we can use multiple languages. Like really, you can bind any language you want into Godot yourself. If there's a language that's not supported by some custom GitHub repo somewhere. You can use GDScript, that's the main language that Godot uses. You can use C++, that's the language that Godot is made in. You can use C# as well. I don't recommend it because you end up running into some of those problems that Unity runs into. Instead of game object components, we have nodes. Everything that's in your scene is a node. If it's not in your scene, it can be other things, it can be resource, it can be ref counted, but if it's in your scene, it's a node. There's no installation required, you just download a little bit of 100 megabytes exe, you run it, and your engine's there. Has so many features on these 100 megabytes, I don't even know how that's possible. And it's just a fun engine. Like, you have fun working with Godot. Like, whenever I hear people like, oh yeah, I tried Godot, like, it feels like a toy in all the best ways, because like, it really feels fun to mess around with, because it's so responsive. It is made by game developers for game developers. There's no shareholders, it's not like a public company. The people that are making the engine are game developers that are using the engine, which makes a lot of sense for why Godot is so much fun and so good. Because if I need something for my game, like, oh man, I need this system for my game, the person makes it and they're like, hey, I'm proposing to add this into Godot, and then you upstream it to Godot. So a lot of the things there that I think like, oh, I wonder how that's like, how I'm gonna do that and find an asset. No, it's in the engine already. Because someone ran into the same problem and they just upstreamed it into the engine. Making your own. It is your own engine. You have the full access to the source code. You can do whatever you want, change its name, change its icons, change its images, rip things out, put new things in. You found a bug in the engine. In Unity, if you find a bug in the engine, you have to go to the issues page, report it there, and you'll never hear back from them. There are some bugs there that are there since I started from 2014. Not even kidding. If you found a bug in Godot, you go there, open the source code, like it will tell you which line it is, go there if you know C++, fix it, send it back to the engine, upstream it. That's the thing. It's just a bunch of nerds doing their thing. So we get very rapid improvements. There's a bunch of pull requests there. They don't get like merged into the engine right away, but if you have a problem and someone already created a pull request, you can just pull it into your fork, just compile it, problem solved. There's two sides to it. There's the issues, which like, oh, I found a bug. I'll open an issue on GitHub, on the Godot engine repository. I'll report the bug. First, I'll see if there's not already one reported there, because sometimes there are. In the other side's proposals, which whenever you are thinking like, oh, Godot should really have this, you go into the Godot proposals, which they keep it in a separate repo, and you open a proposal over there. It's like, hey, this is the feature that I need for this game I'm making. I think Godot should have this feature by default. And then there's a discussion about the feature, like, should this be in Godot? Should this be a plugin? If this should be in Godot, how can this be implemented? Who wants to implement it? So whatever feature is going to go into Godot, it usually first has a proposal and has a discussion over it. Pull requests. So once something that's proposed has a proposal or an issue like a bug happened, someone's going to create a pull request with a solution, and it's available over there. You can test it, you can review it, so you can leave comments like, oh, I had a problem with this pull request and like this machine and whatever. And eventually, if it is a good pull request and the maintainers find it, because there's a lot of pull requests for the maintainers to go through, they will get merged in. The open source spirit as well, like it makes for a lot of great free content. If you just search in GitHub for Godot, whatever kind of feature you're thinking, you might find something there just for free. There's a great asset library, as opposed to the asset store, it's an asset library, everything in the asset library is free. They are working on making a type of asset store where things are paid, but most things in the Godot ecosystem, I find are just free. This is like from the last few versions, the amount of commits that people did and the amount of contributors. So the latest one that came out is 4.3, and in this one, I am one of these people. The size is by the size of contribution, so I'm very small over there, but I did a little bug fix. And now I'm an official Godot contributor, one of 571. GDScript is the main language for Godot, and I love GDScript. I, at first, was thinking, like, should I just stick with C#? Because I was very new to living in Unity. I was like, do I want to learn a new language? But I heard good things about it. I found a good course that was teaching GDScript, and I was like, I'm just going to take the chance, I'm going to go for it. It's a very Python-like syntax. It can be statically typed, so you can say like, oh, this variable here, this is an int, this is a string, this is whatever. Or you can just say this is a variable, and you can put an int here now, you can put a string later. It can be dynamically typed. It doesn't have to be that thing you're saying. Statically typing the variables is more performant, but sometimes dynamically typing opens up the door to a lot of really cool things you can do, which would be way harder than a statically typed language. It's a built-in, what did I mean by that? Oh yeah, built-in game development focused functions. Because it's a language that was made for game development, there's a lot of functions built into it that make a lot of sense to have in a game development language, which in C# wasn't made for this. So whatever you include there, instead of having to be an extension method or its own class. So the arrays in Godot, for instance, have a lot of really useful functions. In C#, if I want to pick up a random thing from an array, I have to go like, okay, array, random from 0 to the size of the array, I put that in the assessor, like I take it back. In Godot, you just go like array.pickRandom, and it's there. And like a lot of different variables and types just have all sorts of like useful things. The string one has so many useful things for parsing and modifying and whatever with strings. Like I just love GDScript. GDScript is very integrated with Godot because it was made for it, so it's best friends with the Godot node system. Works really well with the signals, the callbacks, which I'll talk about later. It has a virtual machine essentially that runs the GDScript. It's bound to the original C++ code from Godot, and apparently the code gets optimized on export. I did not look too much into that part of the code, so I don't know exactly how that works, but I believe it. This is a little example of how GDScript can look. We have a function definition here. Here I'm just dynamically typing. I'm not saying what target is. Target could be different things. If target is a disgruntled Unity user, target's mind goal will be set to true, and target will convert to Godot. We'll call that method there. Another developer joins the Godot side. So we don't have the brackets how we would have in C# with Unity. The scope of each thing, like the function scope, is defined with the indentations. Scope of the if here is defined with the indentations. I like how much smaller vertically that makes the code. I like my code being kind of like small verticality-wise, so I'm very happy with that. It's so easy, it's practically English. And it is true, because like in Godot you can do a lot of things with like, if I want to do and, so like if target is disgruntled user and target is cool. So I can literally say and here instead of doing the and like this. I can also do and like this, but I find that a lot of the times I'm doing this. And instead of doing this as well, I can do not. You can also do, if I'm trying to check, for instance, if something is of a specific type, I can do if target is and say the type, like this gruntled user. So yeah, it gets way more legible for me this way. And if I was in GDScript in the Godot editor, you'd see like the is and the end taking a red color, so you kind of see like the not as well. So yeah, that's the thing. It's fast. It boots really, really fast. I'm just gonna create a new project here in Unity. Let's see what happens. Yeah, 3D core, sure, awesome. My project, new, so fast. There's no internet connection. Is that a problem, or can I create it? I can create it, okay. No, it's not ready yet. While it does that, I'm gonna open a copy of Godot. Okay. Project's not valid, okay, cool. I guess I can't even, is it because I'm not online? Oh no, okay, it is open. Okay. We got this. Okay. Yeah, open the new Godot over here. Gonna create a new project. New fast project. Okay. Unity is doing its thing. We'll get there eventually. How's everybody doing? Pretty good.
Pretty good.
It's a good day. Okay, yeah, we're done. I wonder how much longer Unity is going to be going for. I don't know.
It matches up.
You got till 7.
Okay. We'll see. I'm just gonna leave that there. Let's see what happens. Yeah, boost the blink. Can I put it like to the side here like this? Okay, cool. Yeah, there's no overhead of game objects. It's very quick to create and destroy nodes. There's no garbage collector as long as you're not using C#, so everything is reference counted. When you get a variable, like a reference into a variable, as long as that variable is being held by some instance of something, it's going to be used as be reference counted essentially. Once that instance gets cleared, like freed or like Q-freed, then that reference is no longer valid, so now the reference count goes down. So essentially each reference to like a texture or something that will be in memory would have like a counter of how many things are using it currently. When it gets to 0, oh look at that! Somebody decided to show up.
Yeah. Faster than usual.
Let's try pressing play. Unity. But yeah, fun times. Whenever it gets to 0, then it's freed from the memory way more gracefully than just freezing everything from the main thread for a moment. It has built-in profiling tools, which are great if you do find yourself having some performance issues. And if you need maximum performance, go for C++. There's no better performance you can have. So depending on what I'm doing, I will use C++. Depending on what I'm doing, I'm using GDScript. Most of the time GDScript. I am keeping my own custom version of the engine. And whenever I need something that's like, I need a voxel system, and my voxel system needs to be fast. So I create a custom module for the engine as like a voxel module, instead of making it game specific. So usually for game specific things, I am in GDScript. As I mentioned earlier, we can use GDScript, C++, C#, and more, because you can create your own binding for different languages. So all of these languages have custom bindings that someone made out there, and you can find in the GitHub repo and use it, or you can create your own. And they can be used like multiple languages in the same project as well. Mix and match to mad scientist. So Godot has dedicated 2D and 3D worlds. So in 2D, we have a true 2D renderer mode. It's not just textured quads in a 3D world like Unity is. The Unity 2D renderer is actually just the 3D renderer, but with sprites in little quads in 3D. You can choose to make the camera pixel perfect or not. You can have the camera just be smooth and not care about pixel size. 3D is not just playing catch up. A lot of people think like, oh, the 3D in Godot, like the 2D is great, but the 3D not so much. I would disagree. I think that changed a lot within the past few releases. This game, I cannot pronounce the name. It's a very long, weird name. I have it open here because I showed this to someone. This is the name of this game, whatever that is.
What did you search to find that?
It's the new game from the people from Dome Keeper, and the Godot people were very good at highlighting good Godot games, so I saw it through the Godot people. Dome Keeper is also created by this in Godot essentially. Actually, I don't know if I can make this full screen because right now my internet is off, so I probably shouldn't have tried to make that full screen. It's very upset with me now. But yeah, this game is gorgeous. Like I'm very excited to see how this is gonna look once it's out. And it's made with Godot. There's some other good examples too, like this is the one that I picked for over here. You can choose between using Vulkan for the renderer, OpenGL 3, and more recently, it just came out on Godot 4.3, I believe, you can also choose DirectX 12. These are some of the cool features that we have access to right now. There's many more, but like these are the ones that I kind of wanted to highlight. GPU instancing Unity also has, but like it's pretty easy to use with Godot as well. So you can batch a whole bunch of different things into one draw call. Compute shaders, Unity also has that. Volumetric fog, Unity I don't think has on URP, but they do have on HDRP. Voxelized global illumination, I'm not sure if Unity has that. And it's pretty damn cool. They have the current version is kind of heavy, so it's not good for low-end devices, but they are working on a new version that should be good for low-end devices. But that one's still just a pull request, not fully integrated into the engine yet. This is very new as well, it's compositor effects. You can insert logic into the rendering pipeline, which Unity has something similar with a rendering pipeline. And this is new. You can actually go and write code that's not just a shader that's in front of the camera, but something that's actually acting within the steps of the rendering pipeline. So you can put logic to a specific place to run before this or that, like before getting the depth of the camera or whatever. One good example of this, someone made a really cool motion blur for Godot using the compositor effects. Nodes. I could be using the raw animation for this. In Unity, each object in the scene is a game object. Each game object can have many components. In Unity, the components hold the logic and code. In Unity, you can save pre-configured game objects as prefabs. In Godot, each object in the scene is a node. Everything are nodes. The node holds the logic and code. So one object only has like access to one file, script, or however you want to call it, logic, code. On one node per component. The components of the node are the same in Godot, essentially. Each node has a parent, and they form a hierarchy together. A prefab in Godot is called a scene, which can cause some confusion when people are coming from Unity, because in Unity, scenes are the levels, essentially. In Godot, a prefab is a scene, but also a level is also a scene. So a prefab is a scene is a prefab, a level is a prefab, everything is a prefab in Godot. And here you can see like a very compressed Godot version. This is the hierarchy with our little nodes. This is the project window, which all the files that are in the project. In the middle here, we change between like 2D, 3D, script editor. This is the script editor. Out there on the right is the inspector. In this sense, it's fairly similar to Unity. There's like the console. Yeah, it's a big paradigm shift. I think that's what it is. When you change into Godot, because now you're used to just having all these little things hidden in the game object, but now every component ends up being a little node in your hierarchy. So if you have a visual to your player, that is going to be like an animated sprite 2D or an animated 3D mesh. You're going to have the audio there as a little node, the camera, everything is going to be in your hierarchy as a little node, which I quite enjoy. I find it, a lot of the times in Unity I kind of forget what kind of components are in what objects. In Godot, we're right there, like you see it right away. Most functionality lives in the nodes, so the camera functionality, it's in the camera, like it's very straightforward. When you're going to code something, you're extending from a node. So if I want to code my own custom camera, I'm going to click in the camera, I'm going to say like new script, and it's going to extend from the camera. I have access to all the functionality that the camera already has. I can call methods in the camera, I can change variables in the camera, because I am a child of camera, in this case my script is. And I find that also very, very good and easy for a lot of things, which in Unity I'll create a new component, now I have to go get components to get whatever it is that I'm trying to do, my camera if I'm doing a camera. In Godot, like, yeah, it's all this stuff is mine because I'm creating a new version of this. Composition over inheritance. I find myself writing way more modular and reusable code in Godot by default because of the way that the nodes work. So whenever I'm writing a health component, for instance, it's going to be a little node that I can just put on something, and I write my code in a way that I'll tell my parents, like, hey, you have a health component now, this is my reference. So if someone tries to attack the parent node, they can check like, hey, do you have a health component? Which can be similar to how the get component works in Unity, but at the same time it's different. You can make things very modular like that, especially when you are using dynamically typed things, because you can have different types of health components, and then you can just check like, hey, do you have a method called heal after damage? No, then do you have a method called damage? And you can call depending on what that component has, for instance. One big thing Godot is like call down, signal up. I'll explain signals a little bit later. But calling a method, essentially, like you have a reference to the node, and you're calling that. With signals, you don't really have a reference to who is receiving your signal. You just have a signal, which is like a Unity event or an event in C#. And just like, hey, I took damage. The score UI could be interested in why you took damage. A lot of different things could be interested. But that component specifically doesn't know about that. He just knows that he took damage and he's firing a signal up about it. And usually when you have something deeper in the hierarchy, you avoid calling things that are parent of parent of parents. You just use signals for that. Oops. I think, yeah, that's where I am. The Godot community, like, they're very fun community. They just made this little plushie with the Godot logo, which a lot of people find that's very ugly, but he's ugly in a cute way.
I like it.
The asset library is free and great. There's always new stuff there. Every week I open the asset library and just go through the latest releases, see if there's anything cool. There's usually something cool. I just take it because it's free. The documentation is very extensive and it's right there in the engine itself. I have a slide later about that. The support channels are great. There's a Discord that's like very busy all the time. They have like these voice channels that people just enter there and chat and work together. There's the Godot forums, which are great when you have like questions, and Rocket Chat, which is a free kind of Discord, and that's what the maintainers themselves use for talking about the progress on the engine. And you can actually just go in there and like talk with them. There's all the meetings scheduled for the different teams. So like there's the animation team, there's the XR team. You can join the team. Like everybody is free to become a contributor. I usually try to visit the VR meetings because I like that stuff. Yeah, and it's in the calendar. You have a link. You just go and enjoy the meeting and talk to the other people that are working on the stuff. Which in Unity is inconceivable. Like you can't like trying to get a hold of someone to ask about a bug. Like no, good luck. You just post in the forums and hope. Well, yeah, each new release of the engine, they feature, like whenever we're talking about the new release, they feature a game heavily on that one, like a game made in Godot. So they also kind of help with featuring Godot made games. That's how I discover about the for or whatever the name of the game is. Debugging in Godot is, I quite enjoy it. Like I know you can do breakpoints and all this stuff in Visual Studio, but it's all in the engine, like right here, it's so easy. But yeah, you can also code directly in the engine. It comes with a fully fledged IDE for Godot. I used to just use Rider for C# and I love Rider so much. I'm pretty fine here with my little Godot IDE. I'm not even using anything else for that. Yeah, no alt tabbing, it's right in there. Syntax highlighting, autocomplete. The autocomplete has some problems, but this latest few releases, it got way better. It gives you a lot of warnings that help you catch bugs ahead of time. I usually, in Unity, I just ignore the warnings because there's so many warnings, so much just random ass stuff that doesn't matter. In Godot, the warnings are usually pretty useful. I usually go through them when I see that I have some. I've caught some bugs that way. Hot reload, you can be literally playing the game and change something in your code and like it's changed. You can just use the new functionality right away. There's no compiling, no loading bar, you only change the loading bars. The debugger is great, like you can see the debugger down here. I put a breakpoint over here. It tells me the stack trace of like how we got to this call of first it started here on this function, went to this function, got here. Shows me the variables that I have at this moment in this call. So like, oh, this thing is null. That's why the bug is happening, whatever. And it's not just for games. There's plenty of apps out there made in Godot because the Godot editor itself is a game made in Godot. So whatever the tools and UI components and whatever that Godot has, you can just use it for your own purposes. The theme system is great. I do not have a little image here for this, but I can kind of have Godot open over here. I can kind of show you. Have light blue theme over here. Unity should really have a little theme system like that. It would be great. Because yeah, you can have the buttons themed in a certain way. You can like swap themes around. If you have a button here, I'm just going to add a button to my control over here. Just real quick, a little button. Hi, this is a button. I think I need to make this a little bigger. Oh yeah, this is my canvas, so that's very big now. Okay, hi, this is a button. So if I come over here on my theme, I can go into button and say, actually, I think I want the color for this button to be different, which would be here in this, because there's normal style, press style. Let's see. It's using a texture, not a color, but I can make it use a color. So I'm going to say this is style flat. I can open this. I'm going to make this green. I'm going to add a little border to the right, to the bottom. My border color is going to be a slightly darker green. And I'm going to make it have a little bit of rounded edges, because that's cool. Cool. Now I have like a new button. I need to copy it over to the hover and stuff. But it's all the buttons I would have in the game would automatically be changed. And that's awesome. Also, I don't want to keep that change. So I'm just going to Ctrl Z back. Because I'm fine with this blue, actually. I have decided. Okay. Yeah, whatever. I'm not going to do the animation there. There's so many different types of UI nodes to use, like from the code editor that Godot has over here. I have access to the same code editor, essentially. I made this PowerPoint was made in Godot, and that's essentially how I'm making the PowerPoint with this little markup language that I made. That's a mix of BBCode and like Markdown from like GitHub and stuff with some extra stuff. And yeah, I have access to making a little code editor like that with syntax highlighting, with autocomplete and all sorts of stuff like that, because Godot has it, so I can use it. Yeah, beyond games, Godot is used for lots of apps out there. These ones are pretty impressive. This is a topology tool for the iPads called Cozy Blankets, made by Pablo Dobaro. He used to work for Blender, working on the sculpture part of Blender, and then he went on to make his own stuff. So he's making kind of like a sculpture tool that's uniform, that's also started with Godot. Because Godot's C++ and it's open source, these, I'm sure it's not the default Godot he's using anymore. He built so much stuff on top of it, that's just his own thing, but Godot was the starting point for those. This one is still mostly vanilla Godot. It's an SVG creation tool that someone's making on top of Godot. It's called God SVG. And yeah, this slideshow little system I made is another example. Like, this is essentially an app, but it's an app made in Godot. Shader coding. So this is a basic Unity shader. This is literally from their manual, like talking about like basic shader coding. I think I still have it open here. Yeah, this is their basic shader. It's literally just like a unlit thing. And fair, like there is a bunch of like comments here, so like the comments will make it bigger. But still a lot of like crap that you have to remember to write shader code. If I just remove all of the, it's still a whole bunch of stuff. And because we have a bunch of different rendering pipelines between the default one they call core now, the universal rendering pipeline, the high definition rendering pipeline, they each have their own particularities when writing shaders. So you need to know about those and figure out which type of them are you writing the shader for. Now let's see how a basic shader looks in Godot. That's a basic shader in Godot. This over here on the top, this is the vertex call, the vertex method, and here you can alter things in the vertex. So here I'm taking the y-axis of the vertex and just making go up and down by using a sine wave with time. This is the fragments, this is how we're going to color things. So here I'm just taking albedo and putting red there, which is like a vector free with a 1. The first one is red, green, blue. If I wanted to mess with lighting, it would be like void light, and I'll do stuff over here. But this is it. If I want to declare a variable, it's a uniform, let's say I'm declaring a color. Albedo color. So I'll say it's a source color. And then I can use this over here, the albedo equals albedo color. That's it. I used a lot of shader in Unity, but always using the visual shaders that you can like connect little blocks to make the shader, because I was like, I can't with this. This is ridiculous. And then when I came to Godot and I saw this, Godot has visual shading editor, so I could do the same visual stuff that I was doing in Unity and Godot. But this is so easy, I find it easier to just write it. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, Unity shaders, complex shader lab language, steep learning curve. Godot is GLSL-based language, do it even easy. Also, there is a visual shader editor. This is very new. I think it just came out like last week. I already used Godot for VR, but I never used Godot in VR. And now you can actually use Godot in VR. Because Godot is essentially a game made in Godot, and Godot supports Android, then people started making Godot for Android. Because the MetaQuest 3 is Android, they're like, it's not too big of a jump to make this work in VR. And they did. You can now, on the MetaQuest store, on the MetaQuest store itself, inside of the MetaQuest, you can download Godot and use it. And when you're using Godot in VR, you can literally, like, yeah, you're building this, you can press play, and you're playing in VR. Then you get out and like you change things, like it's awesome. Native VR support, it just works. Like, setting up a project for VR in Godot is so damn quick and easy. In Unity is a pain in the butt. And once, at least it was when I was using Unity, I tried setting up one of my projects for using VR and not VR, like, no. Just make a new branch, because like once you put VR in there, kind of like consumes your thing. Like your thing is VR now. You can't just like say, launch without VR. I was like, nope, that's not how this works. It might have changed since last time I tried, but this was my experience back then at least. With Godot, you can turn it on and off and it doesn't take over your project. It's actually so easy to set up it for VR that someone built an injector that they can take any Godot game and essentially like launch it in VR mode. The UI gets a little wonky because depending on how the UI was done, the UI becomes like this floating window, but you can look around in VR and stuff. Super easy, barely inconvenience. And now with Godot 4.3, you can actually use the engine in VR using MetaQuest 3, which is awesome. Develop VR games well in VR, VRception. Yeah. Documentation, it's right there. Like if I am in a piece of code and I control click any symbol or method that's from the engine, I just go to the documentation right in the engine for it, which is awesome. And I use this so much. I was like, oh, how does this method work again? Is this the right method I'm trying to call? Just control click, go in there, look at the manual. I was like, oh yeah, it is. It's also another collaborative thing. There is a GitHub for the docs. So if you find like, oh, this method, nobody commented this method, nobody has documentation on this method. I know what this method does. I can just contribute this back into the engine as well. Yeah. I can show a little bit how this works. Yeah, that's not actual. There we go. Queue redraw. Control click. Queue redraw. Queues the canvas item to redraw during idle time. Cool. Yeah. Super quick and easy. Tween power. So This is the last slide that I actually got to and made pretty. So now we're going to the non-pretty slides. I also had ChatGPT generate some basic slides, like I talked to ChatGPT and I'm like, hey, this is kind of what I'm trying to cover, and generated some stuff. So it's gonna get weird from here on out. Because I was going around and changing it and making my own, like from here on out, ChatGPT is just doing its own thing. So one thing I love tweens. The tweens, for whoever doesn't know, very little animations that are done through code, so it can be like, hey, I want to tween this position to this position over this many seconds with this kind of easing curve, and the code will animate it for you.
Short for in between.
Yes,
Oh.
short for in between, makes sense. In Godot, the tween system that comes with Godot is awesome. I like it so much. You can chain things, you can make things run in parallel, you can add intervals, you can create a whole sequence of events that happen in the tween. You can add callbacks in different points. You can await for different parts of the tween to continue, like so much cool stuff you can do. In Unity with the default tween system, you can do anything because there's no default tween system, and that blows my mind. Like, how can someone make a game engine and not add twins functionality to it? It's so damn useful for games. Like,
Use physics.
no, go to the asset store. Yeah. Input magic. The input manager, I quite like the input manager in Godot. It just works. I can add controller support real quick. It is very intuitive. I'm just gonna open this, have a project open over here. So input map. I just have like 2 input things here. This is essentially from my from the slides thing. So I don't have a whole lot of things. But let's say escape, I want to add controller support to using escape. Joypad buttons. Let's say it is the Start Xbox menu, Nintendo Plus. Yeah, now I have support for that. There's a bunch of built-in actions as well, so like UI accept, UI left, UI wherever. Those already come with built-in support for controllers, but I could add that myself as well. You can add as many of these as you want to any kind of thing. You can add these in runtime with like a remap controller system. If you select keyboard things, you can say like, oh, I only want this if I have Alt pressed, if I have Control pressed, whatever. I want this to be with physical keyboards or like the Latin equivalent key codes. Or it's so simple to use, and yeah, just makes so much sense. To use this in code as well, it's super easy to call. You just go into inputs, like is action just pressed, and you have the different actions, or is action just released, is action pressed, all sorts of things. Await. I love just being able to make my code wait in certain points. Makes things easier for so many things. In C# with Unity, you have to like, oh, I just decided this method needs to wait for something else. Okay, so I need to make this a coroutine, so I may need to go into what it returns. It needs to not return an enumerator. Oh, but I wanted to return a specific thing. Like, no, I can't, because it needs to be an enumerator to be able to do this. Now I need to, wherever I'm calling this method, call it start coroutine, whatever. In Godot, I want this method to wait for something. Maybe I'll wait for just one frame. I'll wait process frame. Done. That's it. That's all there is to it. Whenever I'm calling something that awaits, I need to say await in front of it. So it will wait for this to complete to get the thing back to put in the variable. I can also say like, hey, I want to wait for a second instead. So I can do create timer and be like 1 and timeout. And now it's awaiting for that. So it's super versatile, super easy to use, just makes so much sense. Signals. I love signals. And callables. Signals will be the equivalent to events in C# and callables to delegates or actions. I'm going to give you some example here. So if I add a slider here, HSlider, if I come over here on the right and go in Node, these are all the signals that come with a slider. And you see like a slider is also a child of a range, which is a child of control, which is a child of canvas items. There's a whole hierarchy there of like what's extending from what. And you can use any of these signals. So it can be like, oh, I want to know when the drag started on the slider. I can just plug into this drag started signal. So if I have a slider here, let's say an H slider, dot new H slider. I can be a new H slider, drag started, connect, and I can connect it. Let's say whenever a new drag started, I want to pass that information to get line rect. So if I just call the name of the method with nothing else, that's now a callable. And like a delegate, so I'm saying like, hey, connect these to this method essentially.
It's like a subscription.
Yeah, exactly. I can also say only do this once. Like once you do it one time, so connect one shot. If you did it one time, don't do it anymore. I just want to do this one time, it's fine. You can also check if it's already connected, so I can say like, hey, if drag started is connected to getLine rect, or if it's not connected, so you can put my not there. If it's not connected, then connected. Or like if it is connected, it's connected, whatever. One cool thing that I love about this as well is you can bind different information to it. So with bind, I can say like, hey, actually, I want to pass my slider itself. Whenever I call drag started, I want to pass my slider with it. I can just say bind and put it there, and it will add to it. So if I want to receive this here, I'd have to say like a slider, H slider, and whenever drag started happened, it will pass in the slider there. And this is so powerful because you can add a lot more information into these events just because when you're connecting. And the event itself doesn't even know about it. It's just something you did on the spot there. Call deferred. If I want to call something not now in the next frame, I can remove the parentheses so you make it callable. And you can say like, hey, actually call this later, call deferred. If you have information passed in, you can pass in these parentheses there. Which that's also something that's super cool. This is completely ChatGPT. ChatGPT thinks those features brighter than supernova. Formula X has more features than you can shake a stick at. There's growing adoption. The indie darling to potential AAA superstar. Yeah, Godot is awesome. Expanded faster than the universe, man.
Goodness.
Yeah, ChatGPT really likes Godot.
If you can run Godot inside of VR, maybe we're already in Godot.
Oh.
Sorry.
The future's so bright, Godot's gonna wear shades. And he picked this cool pink, fuchsia, magenta color, I guess? Yeah, he makes some choices. QA time, roast your curiosities. Fire. But can it run prizes? Probably. But why would you do that yourself? Will Godot blend? Don't try this at home, kids. Is Godot the new Unity? No, it's the new Godot. Remember, there are no stupid questions, only stupid game engines. ChatGPT did it, it's not me. It's not my fault. Now go forth and go do all the things with a great color choice. Yeah. So this is, welcome back. Okay, 6:51. This is all that I had left. I can take questions. I can show you all the cool stuff that this slide system can do. Yeah, this is what this project is.
Are you going to make this public at some point?
I thought about it, and maybe like there's no big reason not to.
I would love a markup-based slide thing.
There's one that exists, and I found it, and it's actually pretty cool. Oh yeah, I don't have internet here. So there's one that exists, it is markup based, and you can export your slides as HTML, PDF, or PowerPoint. You can actually export from there to PowerPoint. So this has like some cool functionality, but it's not super practical to send to people because you are sending like a 50 megabyte TXT file, which can be sus. But for my own use of just like showing and not really sending to people, that's fine. Yeah. And I also included, because I'm teaching right now at an SCC, I'm an auxiliary faculty teaching Game Programming 1 and Game Mathematics. So I built in some cool functionality here. So this here is code. So I can say shows compile equal true. And now I have a little compile button here. So I can say like, okay, let's do console, right line, hello world. I can compile and I can run. And now I open the console and I can see my hello world here. Can be like, okay, let's see console.readline. Readline doesn't have that. String new line. Be like, okay, console.writeLine, you wrote new line.
This is C#, right?
This is C#.
And the C#.
New line with like this. Okay, so I can compile. Oh, I forgot a semicolon. So if I come over here, it's like error. Semicolon expected at runtime mono, wherever, like yeah. Forgot my semicolon. Hello world, hi world. You wrote hi world. Yeah. So yeah, you can fully code C# here. And I do that sometimes in class. Like I have an example, because like in my slides, I can open some other slides here. So if I go into slide importer, I can load slide folder. The slides essentially live in different folders here. So here is real. Which one? I'll go runtime code. Oh, runtime model. Yeah, this one. Game mathematics day 2. Rounding model. So yeah, sometimes I get over here to a piece of code and I can just like compile, run, and like actually let me show you some other thing. Like I just add to it. Like yeah, this is just showing the different types of rounding and stuff. Which, why are you not giving me, do I need to make this public? Maybe I need to make this public. Because I'm not seeing my run button. Yeah, I need to make this public. Original 3.7, whatever. So this makes it really easy for doing class, just like if someone has a question, just showing different things to them. And quick. One really cool thing as well, let me show you another slide that I did some cool stuff with. I can actually put Godot code there that gets executed on the spot as well, so I can do some real cool stuff. I think it is real time. Some industry news, Unity is canceling the runtime fee. So whenever I get here, this is actually Godot code that is this game. So I can press space, and I showed them how to code Flappy Bird on the console. And I can play Flappy Bird on my slide. And the code is actually in here. Like all of the code for the game is in the slide itself, in the text file for the slides. And I just create a little console here, and I just put my code here. So I can do some really cool stuff. Sometimes it bugs when I do that. Yeah, I can like have this text files that I can write stuff while I'm talking to them. I can change the size of this really easily, so I can have bigger or smaller. It makes it really dynamic during the classes. Another cool thing I added, I'm gonna delete these names. I'm like, okay, I have Trevor here, I have Heather, I have Daniel, I have Daniel as well, I have Daniel as well. But essentially, like whenever I'm like, hey, how might we adjust these values to change the game's difficulty? And like nobody wants to answer me. I'm like, okay, let's see. Who's gonna answer me now? Okay. Yeah, Trevor, how was gonna do this?
Increment the variable.
Yeah, good job. So yeah, I can do all sorts of cool things in my little slide thing that I wouldn't be able to do if I just had like a PowerPoint or a PDF. So I can definitely share this with you if you want. But if you just want markup, yeah, that's pretty
Because
cool.
I could use this as well.
This is a cool
Yeah, when I'm using ChatGPT to make these as well, I can show you how it looked out of ChatGPT. I have a little slide creation thing here. So Godot versus Unity Slideshow. So all the slides are in one file that ChatGPT generates for me and separated by these equal with the name of the file after. So I can take this and say import, and I choose a folder and it will create the text files for the slide for me. So that already gives me a base spot to start my slideshow, because usually ChatGPT is going to make a bunch of like nonsense. But I go over and like, okay, now I already have this. I can start like messing around with this, making it better. Gives me a starting point as opposed to starting from nothing. Another cool thing too is like if I have like a slide here, I can do Ctrl+C, and it actually converted it to HTML for me. Because we have the student portal there, and a lot of the times I want to pass this information to students, but it's not super practical to send this exe for them or for them to open this exe and stuff. I can just convert the spots to HTML and put it in the student portal, and it's there. And now it's this here. Yeah, another cool thing, I also made a little quiz maker because the student portal there, it takes CSV files. Oh, it's very upset now. I think I did way too I did way too much nonsense there. It's got upset with me. So on the quiz maker site, Student portal there takes a CSV file for quizzes, but it's very annoying to write a CSV file, so I made a little interpreter here and a little markup language for the quiz. So I can add different types, like, oh, I want a multi-select question, so that has 3 different correct options and stuff. I want an ordering question. Then you can click convert, and it creates the CSV for me that I can import there. I use this a lot. We don't do many quizzes in class, but I use this for self-assessments, which they can do and like get feedback depending on the answer they chose, and they kind of learn from it, see how their knowledge is by doing a little ungraded quiz. And I can also ask ChatGPT to generate this markup and go from there as well, so I don't start from nothing. So yeah, my life gets very much easier this way. I have a whole help section here with like all the... That's another cool thing of Godot, like you can actually have separate windows, which I don't think you can with Unity. So I click help, I have like a separate window that's not a Godot window. Which reminds me of another cool thing I did with this. I started making a new game, which is about learning how to program in C#, which is, oops, do I have it open here? I don't think I do, but I will open it. It's my custom mono thing. It's called Catacombs of Sharp. I think I'm gonna lower my volume because this does have some audio. So I'll create a new game. Hi. Yeah, I did model a semicolon character, but I haven't put him in the game yet. But you're talking to a semicolon here. It's like, do I know you? They do. A lot of people do forget the semicolon. You need to make me feel better, I get it. It's okay. So yeah, I'm gonna just skip a bunch of stuff. And there's monsters that appear, and the only way that you can do anything in the game is to write code. So it opens up a little separate window as well, which I don't think Unity can do that, which is your code, so I can actually do whatever I want with this. And this is totally connected, so like this can do stuff with this and vice versa. So that looks like a dragon. I had it open earlier, let me see if I still have it open. No,
I thought it was like deformed body parts, yeah.
Oh, here. Like,
It's
yeah,
like
it's
a Ramesh Bosch kind of painting.
There
okay.
we go.
yeah, it's like some sort of dragon.
Now
Like
I
you
see
can
the face.
Yeah, you can see the hand here and stuff.
Yeah, I see the mouth now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just looked like, because the torso looks like a torso, or like the
Fair.
lower part. Looks like a stretched torso, like it's on a vase or something.
Okay.
Choice of color could have been reconsidered.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's a full sculpting app in the iPad.
Flush dragon.
You can make a plush dragon.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
thought it was bean sprouts. I'm just hungry, apparently.
It is 7. I love BBCode in Godot too. You can do so much cool stuff with it.
So that's BBCode stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's like a hint, so tooltips are hints. And this is not properly styled. It looks very ugly right now, but I can style it better with the theme system. Like shake, and you have like all sorts of different, like rate 80, so now it's going to shake way faster. Or like, oh, maybe I just want to shake a little bit, 2. Now it's tornado, pulse,
What
rainbow.
if you turn that tornado way up?
Frequency or radius? Both. Okay,
Yes.
radius 50.
There we go.
Maybe more, like 550. Oh yeah.
It has left us.
Maybe 400.
It's hurricane season.
That's right.
Yeah. And you can say connected or not. I think not connected, each letter is gonna
just
go.
like, yeah.
Yeah. Whee! Yeah. But yeah, it's lots of cool stuff. Pulse, like 99.
Is that built into Godot or?
That's built into Godot.
Yeah. I didn't
Oh,
know.
God, so much stuff is built into Godot, it's amazing. Like the table stuff, like, oh, I want to make a table with 2 cells and be like cell 1. I can also do a BG color, I think, or just, yeah, BG color, red. Well, I need to close the cells. So I'll do cell.
You can write your Steam page patch notes and then render them in your game without any
Yeah.
nonsense.
So it's not BG color, maybe it's just BG. Yeah, it's just BG, so I can like do cells, color my cells. I can do so much cool stuff, it's amazing. Like I love the,
Steam patch notes are in
BBCode.
BBCode too, so you can just copy
yeah.
this.
I still have my BBCode. Yeah, I do have the BBCode open here. Yeah, here's on the documentation that they have like examples of each of the things it does. cell options, you can do expand, border. There's just so much built into it. I love all the image thing. In Garden Paws, I really wanted on the quest thing on the site to have in the text of the quest saying what the items were that we wanted. I did not find a way to do it that was like feasible, because you could use the emoji atlases, but then you have to create emoji atlases. I wanted just like one shot, like, hey, image put here. In Godot you can do that. I can just be like, hey, image, which images I have here? Other project slides. And the images as well are just like images over here. So Blastronauts. Image, Blastronauts, be like res, I think. Yeah. Is this how I do this? Yeah. So the image just here, oh, this image is too big. I'm gonna say, I want it to be maximum 100. So now it's like 100. Text before. Text after. Like you can do so much with pure, just this.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love it. Yeah.
Very cool.
20. Now it's a small one. That's emoji. Yeah. Any more questions, or are we getting to that point? URL as well. I can do like URL tags, and then can handle what happens when you click on that URL. Just like this. There's lots of really cool stuff here. Font size drop cap. Drop cap is cool because like can do like the big letter at the beginning and the rest of the text. Like can change fonts like BBCode right in the middle of the text. Color, foreground color, background color, outline, all sorts of things. Yeah.
Very good.
I think nobody has any more questions. I think that is it. We did it. Thank you.